Chief Justice, let's talk about the election. The election is just around the corner, and the courts are going to be put on pressure again to adjudicate election petitions. Is this something you are preparing yourself for? And if you're preparing, how are you preparing yourself for it?
When people go to judicial institutions, either the true judicial or quasi-judicial institution, that's a good thing. Now the question is, do I have the capacity to resolve all election petitions which are brought, say, in the High Court within a month or two? No, most unfortunately, because I don't have the judges. We have legal systems which are rather soft. My view would be, if disproved by the trial court and you go on appeal to the Court of Appeal as the final court, that you actually bought votes, even when by-election is ordered, you should be ordered not to participate in that as a punitive action. People will learn.
Chief Justice, if someone came to you with an election petition, presidential election petition, and said people were locked out of voting centers, people were beaten, would you consider that evidence before you consider the outcome of the election?
I would. I would consider what does the law say about that. Because there is what is an electoral offence, and then there is failure in conducting the election properly. Those are two aspects. For electoral offence, even 1 cent is enough to annul, because it is criminal. That's why it is called an offence. But for where 500 people have been denied, overall 500,000, in a dispute whose outcome has got a margin of 3 million, 4 million voters, you ask the question, even if I give these 500,000 people to the runner-up, what difference does it make? You get what I'm saying? And then we come back with strong recommendations on what needs to be done to seal off that loophole.
Justice, in the last election, the Supreme Court, listening to the amicus curiae, made very specific demands of Parliament to pass electoral reforms. Reforms which the court said they would use special injunctions here and there if they are not passed. We've reached another election. Some of these reforms have not come to pass. The diaspora will not be able to vote. The compilation of the National Voters Register itself is still a matter of contest. Why hasn't your court issued special injunctions?
The court, you have to move court. You get what I'm saying? Because the court made those, what we call, declaratory or advisory decisions based on, as you said, because the amicus curiae litigants came and said, we need this, fine. Somebody has got to move court. And then the court can pronounce itself, yes.
But they say the judiciary is one of the most corrupt institutions in the country. Do you share the sentiment that you had an institution that is completely corrupt?
I have always blamed IGG for such a simplistic categorization. It's not that I condone corruption. It's not that I deny that there's corruption in the judiciary. It is there. But tell me which institution doesn't have corruption. Tell me, even the non-governmental institution, it is a national malaise, if you want to know. And in tackling the issue of corruption, to say judiciary is corrupt, I think we are missing the point. How many judicial officers have come to you and say, this case of yours, I can make you win if you do something? Nearly none. It's you people who come to the judiciary, who approach the judicial officers by whatever means and say, oh, by the way, I can do something. It comes from the people. So who is corrupt? Even in the Lord's Prayer, which we are taught by Jesus, he teaches us to ask God not to lead us into temptation. So I should want to ask you people who come and use the courts of judication, do not lead us into temptation.
You are the Chief Justice, so when you say you're going to deal with your people, what does that mean?
Once it is proved, and it must be due process, the judicial officer should just leave the judiciary. But the point I wanted to make is, do you know why they say judiciary is corrupt? Because justice should never be bought at all. If we say buying votes is wrong, it is even worse. It is abominable to buy justice.
Do you feel bad that some sitting members of the bench, former sitting members of the bench, were sanctioned by the United States for corruption in a matter, in a court process?
Of course, it's not a nice thing. But again, I ask the question, were they afforded the opportunity to be heard? That is a fundamental and cardinal rule. They must be tried, they must be given an opportunity to defend themselves, and then a decision is made. Even God, he knew what Adam had done with Eve. He still came and said, where are you? What have you done? Have you eaten of that fruit which I forbade you? And God knew, because the principal rule that I do not condemn you unheard was so important.